Matt Eberflus is 100% feeling the heat under his seat at Hallis Hall right now after a disastrous loss to the Washington Commanders due to poor game planning, terrible offensive execution, and poor accountability. Eberflus blaming his own players for what happened and doubling down on that he made the right decisions in various situations. I'm going to break it all down why this was the nail in the coffin for Matt Eberflus and why even at 4-3, I don't think he'll be the Bears head coach after this season. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago Bears. My name is Nick Brody, and as always, thank you for tuning in. I also am going to run through who I want the Bears to make their next head coach, and I think a lot of you are going to agree, so let's break that all down. And before we get into today's show, hit that like button if you want the Bears to get a new head coach after this season. Bears don't fire them during the season, so that's why we're getting one next year. Along with commenting in the comment section below who you want the Chicago Bears to go out and hire as their next head coach. And are you a Bears fan new to the channel and want free Bears news and notifications? Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date in all Chicago Bears news. So let's just jump into Matt Eberflus and what he has done as the Chicago Bears head coach. A 14-27 record over 2.5 seasons as the Bears head coach is 11-10 at home and 3-17 on the road. That is pretty darn bad. Eberflus has not led the Bears to the playoffs yet in 2.5 seasons. Yes, year one was definitely a rebuild. Year two, there was a lot of excitement. In this year, even at 4-3, we're at the bottom of the division, the toughest division in football. And the NFC as a whole is a pretty tough conference to be playing in. Eberflus at 4-3 just can't seem to get things going consistently. Though he was on a 3-game winning streak and has a 9-game home winning streak, you got to find ways to win on the road. Eberflus, on top of that, too, has struggled in the challenge department, which has changed the momentum significantly in various different games over his time as the Bears head coach, as he is a 2-5 in 7 career challenges, would be 3-5 if he threw it out there last night on a 13-yard drop by the Washington Commanders that put them in field goal position yesterday. A lot of people forget about that. And it would have been a 15-15 game. Bears actually would have been up 15-9 and could have tied it. There's a lot of what ifs that could have happened, but overall, Flus is just not good in the challenge department and doesn't know how to read the situation. Also, from an offensive perspective, we have just not moved the needle at all. And he is responsible for hiring the offensive coordinator and being the final guy that calls and gives the approval of plays. In 2022, the Chicago Bears offense ranked 28th from a yards perspective, 23rd from scoring, 23. They had 20th in yards, 18th in scoring, so progression. And so far in 24, they've regressed a little bit in the yards perspective at 26 at the moment, but scoring 15th. This team is scoring more because the defense gets pick sixes or turnovers and puts them in good field position, and Cairo Santos gets a ton of field goals. Yes, Caleb Williams got things going over the last couple of weeks against bad teams, but at the end of the day, the consistency still could have get carried over to the Washington game. We know what this team can do. From a defensive perspective, though, he's fantastic. He's developed one of the best defenses in the NFL. In 22, with absolutely nothing, they were ranked 29th from a yards perspective, 32nd from scoring. And now in 24, they're ranked 12th from a yards perspective and 4th in scoring. An impressive turnaround, developing that defense for sure. But the teams are scoring less on us. That means that there's less risky chances for them to turn the ball over because our defense is doing everything. If you guys remember the Water Boy with Adam Sandler, where in the end of the game, they took the defense out by just kneeling in the entire second half because the Water Boy was defenseless. That is exactly what this Bears defense is dealing with right now because offenses are scoring quickly. They always score in the first. The Bears have never led in the first quarter, by the way, this season. And they aren't letting off the gas pedal, and the Bears offense can't do anything. So that's why we have low-scoring games. The defense keeps us in it, but their offenses are taking much less risk against these teams. So overall, Matt Eberflus just is a better defensive coordinator at the end of the day. Some guys like Vic Fangio, some guys like Matt Nagy, actually, you know what? That's a bad one. I mean, let's just use Vic Fangio. But Fangio and Eberflus are definitely just great coordinators. That's what they're meant to be in the NFL. As a head coach, they can't handle all of that responsibility. They have their hands too much in one area versus another. They need to be spread out. That's exactly what Dan Campbell did with the Detroit Lions. He took himself off play calling, gave it to Ben Johnson, and the Lions have a head coach that oversees everything. He trusts his coordinators and everyone does their job. Guarantee you the Bears defense would do just as good with Eric Washington leading the DC, and there'd be a lot more formal and better decisions from a head coach perspective of Matt Eberflus. I just think that he isn't making good decisions. Let's talk about that real quick. He burns key timeouts. choosing his coaching staff. He's had to fire already a ton of people over 2 seasons. And also, he allows these various different things to happen. Shane Waldron calling the Doug Kramer run. Why would you give it to a lineman in a losing situation? The 4th-and-1 screen against the Washington Commanders should have never happened. At the end of the day, again, great defensive coordinator, but he can't have all that responsibility as a head coach while holding his hand just in the defense and not worrying about the offense. Eberflus is pulling a Nagy right now, where Nagy were like offensive guru coming from Andy Reid. Andy Reid was a good coach. Andy Reid handled everything. He trusted his guys. That's why Nagy was able to just focus on being an offensive mind. When Nagy was in Chicago, he had his hands in too many places. Not enough experience, but overall, that's why I think Flus needs to be done. But I have a new candidate that I want the Bears to bring in. And that, my friends, Ben Johnson. This guy is the real deal in Detroit. He's proven it year in and year out. This guy has helped the Detroit Lions become the offensive juggernaut that they are today. Since taking over play calling duties in 2022, his offense has been top 5 every single year. In 22, his first year as the offensive coordinator, 4th in yards, 5th in scoring. 2023, 3rd in yards, 5th in scoring. So far this year, 6th in yards, 1st in scoring. Talk about consistency in knowing your job. He has been giving various different players year in and year out, and he just makes them work every single time. Jared Goff's a top 10 quarterback because of working with Johnson. David Montgomery, miss him so much. He's a top 5 running back. Best offensive line in football. He works well with his other coordinators. That's what Dan Campbell did. He was calling the plays for the Lions before Johnson, and he had no idea what he was doing. He gave the duties to Johnson. Everything takes off. Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, same exact situation. Johnson is Johnson. He knows who to go out and get, and is going to run a field like him and be a good offense. Well, Ben Johnson can coordinate and help overall, but he's not going to have his hands deep embedded in like Eberflus has in the defense right now. So I think that Ben Johnson is just a better call because he'd hire the right staff. He'd bring a lot of Detroit over. He knows this division. He knows what it takes to beat the Lions. He knows what it takes to beat the Packers. He knows what it takes to beat the Vikings. And he's seeing Caleb Williams 2 times a year. He's seeing this Bears team 2 times a year. He's understanding what it means to win for this team. I think Ben Johnson would bring that offensive mindset to help develop Caleb Williams, but he sees the leadership of Dan Campbell and knows that he doesn't need to be involved in everything and trusting his coordinators, and he'll bring in the best ones for him in order to make things right. Now, quickly, before I get into more why I want Ben Johnson, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Authentico Organic Tequila. 100% USDA organic. The Chicago-based startup is family-owned, with creating the tequila in Guadalajara, Mexico. You can find it all over the Chicagoland area and in Tennessee. If you guys are watching out there, go to the link in the description now to find one of the smoothest tequilas on the market. You guys won't regret it. Great in espresso martinis, by the way, if you want to get dicey and not put vodka in there, or just good for palomas, margaritas, or ranch water. You name it. Try it out today. Go to the link in the description now. More of why Ben Johnson makes sense for this team. Well, he's going to bring in his own staff that is going to be entirely new to this offense and defense, clearing the house. He will likely bring in Lions assistants, like I was saying, which they know the division, they know Johnson, they respect Johnson, and they've learned great things from him as a coach. And Johnson knows who can keep up with his level of play calling. Johnson then can focus on developing Caleb Williams. He will unlock more players, and he's worked with DeAndre Swift already, so a leader on our offense clearly at the moment can help get the guys on the page of the new head coach, so there isn't any locker room conflicts. Not only that, too, but this would be Ryan Poles' last chance. I mean, seriously. I mean, he's gone through already Matt Eberflus. He's going on to another head coach. He's already on his second quarterback. Can't give him too many chances. I like Ryan Poles, but I think that he will get this right, and he's going to evaluate the situation, because I'm frustrated with Matt Eberflus, and I think you guys are too. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. You guys can throw an FGB in there if you want as well, always. But make sure you comment who you want the Bears to hire if it's not Ben Johnson, or if it's Ben Johnson, throw it in there. Like this video if you want the Bears to see some change at head coach, and please subscribe to stay up to date on all Chicago Bears news and notifications. But with that, thank you, as always, for tuning in this episode of Just Another Year Chicago Bears. My name is Nick Rhodey, and as always, bear down, baby.